Good evening. This is the April 14th meeting of the Colosio Township Public Services Commission. And I'd like to start the meeting. I'll call the meeting to order and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and now we'll proceed and call the roll. Mr. Budney?
Present.
Mr. Nelson?
Present.
Mr. Wilder is apparently not here. We haven't heard from him. Mr. Schmidtke?
Present.
Mr. Manaz?
Here.
Kennedy?
Here.
Riley?
Present.
And Costick. So we have a quorum. Next, we'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I move that we approve the agenda as it stands.
Is there support?
Support.
Any discussion? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda is approved. You all have the minutes of the March 10th meeting, and you all had a chance to look at them. I was not at the meeting, so I'll abstain from voting. And we have a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of the March 10th, 2015 meeting.
I will support that.
Moved and supported that the minutes of March 10th be approved as distributed. Is there discussion? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next, we have approval of the bills found on pages 6 through 14 of your packet. All had a chance to read those.
I have, Mr. Chair, I have a quick question.
Can you give the page number, please?
Page 7, right at the top, relocate service pole. I just wanted to know if it was anything to do with our PV.
Yeah,
that is what that is?
That's the check that went out to DTE. The pole hasn't been moved yet.
Okay, but the money's gone. Okay, but
Yeah,
that is that one. Okay, thank you.
Good question. Any other questions? If not, we have a motion. All in favor indicating approving the vouchers, please indicate by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed? The vouchers are approved.
Don't we need a motion?
I didn't hear it. You did?
I did.
And I think Mr. Schmidtke supported.
Okay, thank you.
Item 7 on our agenda is review of statement of revenues and expenditures. That's the year-end report, really. It's for the 12th month of the fiscal year. If there are no questions on that, we'll receive and file the statement. Next is the approval of the treasurer's report for March of 2015, found on pages 20 and 21. Any questions?
One quick question, Mr. Chair. At the bottom of page 20, the various accounts, what's the open savings account? What does that mean? What is open? I mean, did we open a savings account, or is that?
No, anything that's non-applied, it's
just a non-specific?
It's DPS funds.
Okay. Thank you.
It's a good thing we have the treasurer here to answer that question. Okay, can we have a motion to accept the treasurer's report?
Motion to accept the treasury report of March 2015.
Support? Is there support? I'll support it. Moved and supported that we accept the treasurer's report. Any questions? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The treasurer's report is accepted. Next, we have an opportunity for public comment, and I see no public in the audience, so we'll move on to the next item. Now, I want to stop right here. John Riley, you're the vice chair of this commission, and everyone told me before you got here what a fabulous job you did getting him through the March 10th meeting, but that's never been my goal. So,
okay, wait till you're finished.
I'm done.
Well, there's no public comments, but one thing that was interesting in the meeting, we did have some public comment, and there was a fella by the name of Woody who came in and was complaining about the potholes. So just so Woody knows that we heard him, that's what he said I hear it again, even though he's not here. He's in absentia. So that's it. I don't have anything else to say.
And the 2 bumps on Meridian.
The 2 bumps. One's at Highland. Right. Okay.
And I do know that we have a lot of bumps. We're going to talk about roads a little later.
Horseman. The other one's at Horseman.
Horseman.
They're both Meridian. So
No, Brymore.
we're looking at them.
Byron,
Byron and
Yeah, the 2 bumps he was talking about were Highland and Byron.
We're still looking at those because we know they're bad.
well, when I got back from being out of town, last week I was in a meeting talking about roads. And those 2 specific crossings came up because this winter they heaved pretty bad. And we're going to take care of those. Those should be fixed within, John, the next 60 days or less?
A little bit more.
Okay, when we do the other repairs for water main breaks, so roughly, well, they'll be fixed this spring, summer, early summer.
Good.
Along with all the other water main breaks, okay? So I'm glad you brought that up. All right. All right, so there's no public comment, so let's move on. Action items, dust control, contract extension, Lorinda?
Do you want to read the motion first?
Yes. We have a motion to recommend to the Township Board to extend the contract from D&D Emulsions Incorporated for dust control services for the 2015 season at the same rate as 2014, which is 58 cents a gallon applied. The report goes on to say that in 2014, one application of this material, dust control material, was applied at a total cost for $37,584. So that's basically the recommendation. The contractor, D&D Emulsions of Mansfield, Ohio, has agreed to extend his bid from 2 years ago and hold the price.
I'll support the motion.
Who made the motion?
Nobody.
You did.
I think Les just did.
Miranda just read it.
Well, I'll make the motion since I read it. So we have a motion to support. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
That was quick. So the next item on the agenda is the raw sewage pump replacement for pump number 2 at the wastewater plant. The motion would read to recommend to the Township Board the purchase of one replacement. Joe, how do you pronounce this? Flight dry pit pump in the amount of $22,430 from Kennedy Industries, Michigan's only distributor of the single source for this pump for the wastewater treatment plant. The report goes on to say that the raw sewage pump number 2 is the main pump used for pumping wastewater into the wastewater treatment plant. It is a 25 horsepower dry pit submersible pump that operates with a variable frequency drive that varies the pump speed to control the wet well level at 5.5 feet. The existing pump has had 2 failures over the past 2 years. The last cost estimate to repair the pump came in at 50% of the cost of replacement. So the staff is recommending that the Flight pump be replaced.
Support.
Support. So we've had a motion in support to purchase the pump for $22,430. Is there any discussion?
I think it's also important that we note that this pump was initially purchased in 2003, so we've gotten many years of use out of it. It's not something that is relatively new and is breaking down. It's been around. Now, if you look at the history, we have been putting some money into it, haven't we, Joe? So I think the last time they looked at it, the people said we had to tear it down again and rebuild it, so.
Any other questions? Phil?
I noticed the quote does not include installation. Is that just insignificant, or you can do it yourself?
We'll do it ourselves.
Okay.
Well, we may have to bring in one of our piping guys to modify that discharge piping, because they reconfigured the pump probably to pass the solids that are coming in, because right now what's wrecking these pumps is the so-called flushables that everybody's putting down the toilets are coming into the plant and they're balling up inside the impellers, causing these things to run out of balance. And unless they get really out of balance or cut, make an impact on the flow, we can't tell. We don't have like a vibration analysis machine or anything like that. So it has to be really obvious for us to notice it. But there might be some modification on the piping, but we'll take care of that within the maintenance cap, and most of the labor will be us, so there's no...
Joe, as far as bolting it down and everything, it's going to go right where the other one goes,
Yes,
correct?
that's why we're recommending this. It'll fit on the same base and right onto the existing suction piping. It's just the discharge is slightly modified.
Is this the grinder pump, Joe?
No. No. It's
This is the one that's in the very bottom of the wet well?
it's in the dry well, but down on level 1 in the lowest area of the plant. Yes.
Further questions? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next on our agenda, we have the manager's report. Lorinda, turn it over to you.
Okay, first up is the Junk Finder Treasure will be held at the DPW yard located at 8555 Grow Road on May 2nd and May 3rd from 9 a.m. until 4 p.m. each day. This year they will not be having any electronic recycling due to the cost involved. So Wayne County is sponsoring their household hazardous waste collection on the same day. It'll be held at the Flat Rock Community Fields off of Gibraltar Road by the Flat Rock High School, located at 25600 Seneca Street, and we will be happy to take all of your electronics over there. Also, I received a phone call today from a lady with the Glazio Nature Land Conservancy, and I've posted this notice on the website that they will be celebrating Earth Day on Wednesday, April 22nd from 6:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. at St. James Episcopal Church. They will be hosting a healthy, green, and environmentally friendly lawn class for those of you who would wish to attend.
And the day of that again was?
That one will be held on Wednesday, April 22nd.
Okay. So our Dump the Junk, the county's program, they'll all be listed on the website.
Yep, they're already up there, and as a reminder, please do not try to bring any bricks or concrete, because they'll turn you away.
So construction material of that nature is...
Nothing like that, no.
No computers or anything like that?
No computers, no.
But Wayne
Actually-
County's is the same day, right?
Yes, Wayne County's the same day. Also, residents, it's on the website as well, the Riverview landfill, actually the recycling center, they'll take your computers over there anytime, free.
Okay.
Okay. And that's off what road? Off of...
King Road, that one is.
Okay, off King Road.
Thank you. Okay, next we have an update on our countertops and cabinets over at the wastewater treatment plant. Joe sent me this pretty picture, and you all have it now, that the cabinets are installed, and I hope they're working properly, right, Joe? Because we all know what it looked like before.
What pretty picture?
Didn't you guys get this pretty picture in your packet?
Yep.
Yeah, see?
It's
Some
on
you
the back
did.
of...
It's on the back of your, can't remember, yeah, because
Yes.
I'm saving paper, okay? So that's done and installed.
Well, it looks nice, Joe.
Yeah.
It does. And they picked a nice color, I thought.
And the contractor, who took away the old cabinets, the rusted cabinets? Contractor.
Who selected the color, Joe?
Jason. That's what I said, okay, I didn't pick out the color, but I thought it looked nice. Okay, next we have the pressure reducing valves update. Okay, I talked with the contractor this morning, and Raines has been putting the pressure on them. They sent out their their employees to pump out the ditch this morning. Well, they didn't bother to bring any pumps with them. So they hand dug a ditch, and then later on, they were able to get some pumps in. So right now, or I should say earlier today, they were dewatering the site. They will be digging the trench. The conduit should be going in tomorrow. It's only 15 feet of conduit, so, and then Clark will be back to fill it in the trench. And then DTE has been ready for weeks now to move that pole. We've just been waiting on the contractor to do their job.
Do we need to have the city attorney get, or township attorney get involved?
Well, I talked with the township manager this morning. I told him, I said he may have to make a phone call, but let's see, hopefully tomorrow, what happens. If not, possibly. I did request that we should have a meeting set up with them. Jim,
Yeah.
you should, if you'd like to be involved in that, I'll see if we can
That'd be fine.
find out
Yeah.
what is the big holdup now, because this project's been going on long enough.
You're with the contractor you're talking about?
Yes, with the contractor.
Well, I think the manager should make a phone call tomorrow. We've wasted enough time.
One thing I didn't add on the manager's report, but I just wanted to give you an update on the chip sealing, is that the contractor is getting ready to start. We've requested his schedule to find out in actuality when he's going to be starting everything. He'll be making the repairs first. My guess is probably sometime in May. They'll be doing it. The frost laws will be coming off tomorrow morning.
Where's he going to stage for that project?
You know, we talked about that. I think part of it's going to have to be in our yard. Yeah, next, on the concrete, next to the tennis center. They'll have to do some staging right there. They'll be putting their other equipment and stuff.
Just let Mike know if you need to use any of the airport surface.
Yeah.
Let him know ahead of time.
Okay.
Because we've got some areas back there where that back fence is. That's out of the line of the T-hangers and stuff. I mean, if worse came to worse, because I know it has to be on a hard surface. So.
Right.
Ted, before you go on that,
Okay.
the staging you're referring to has to do with the chip seal process,
Right.
not the base repairs.
Right, no, just chip seal
Yeah,
process.
and I would expect the chip seal would probably be done in June, probably the latter part of June when it gets...
But he's going to want to deliver his product here on site
Right.
first.
We have to
Right. And when who was at the pre-construction meeting? Neither of you? Didn't they talk about using our site?
Yeah, they talked about
did.
using our site as well, yeah.
Yeah, they talked about it, Ted, and that was to make it clear, because it's really in proximity to the areas we're doing. It's very close to everything except Horseman. Phil?
But two questions. On the chip seal, has it been determined whether all the roads that we originally planned to do are still doable with the further damage that came during the winter? Or anything that...
Well, we...
I know, because some of them were marginal
The answer is,
last year.
it has been determined that there's been some additional failure. And if you recall, at our budget meeting in February,
I missed that.
you missed
Yeah.
that meeting. I'm going to pass out, we're going to talk about roads a little later.
Okay.
I'm going to pass out the budget that was approved. We budgeted an additional $30,000 to do additional base repair work. In the primary areas, there's a spot or two on Horse Mill, and there's considerable spots on East River between Manchester and Grow,
Right.
particularly in the southbound lane, particularly the southbound lane.
A little bit.
And you say South Point has
A
some?
little bit. I mean, some of those areas have gotten deeper over the winter.
Yeah, and when the contractor, it's the subcontractor to the chip seal contractor is a firm called Al's Asphalt to do the base repairs. But we spoke with our engineers, and when they come out to do that, we have this extra money. They've already made a decision on what's going to be done on East River to make the additional repairs. They're going to look at all the spots. So we have additional $30,000.
One other comment, Lorinda, concerning using the airport property over there to store things, would they be able to access that through your DPW entrance? They wouldn't have to come
Yes.
on to the...
Well, there's also an electronic gate over there, too.
Pardon?
There's an electronic gate over there that they can use as well.
Well, the problem we have with this is when these contractors come down on the airport property, active taxiways. They've already torn up some of our asphalt into our hangar, and there seems to be no governance of them operating on the airport property. You see them out there.
Well, this would be the small area, which would be east of the T hangars, and they'd use that gate there. They wouldn't actually come.
Yeah, it was always my view that they would use the DPW gate. No, need
If
not
they
go
use
on
the
the airport.
DPW yard, I don't even think it's an issue now.
Right.
They would use the gate
Actually, after, sorry.
near Shearwell.
Say again?
Yeah, that's
Yes.
the gate they're gonna use. After
They would use that gate, so
that's the
then
location.
come down the active taxiway area, and then exit to the east.
No, they're gonna, all their materials gonna be right there, just inside that gate, going to the north, up against that fence line. So they're using all that concrete right there from the electronic gate to the north of that fence line.
Okay, I know where
They're
you're
not
at.
even gonna be near the T hangar. So it'll be coming in and out right through that gate.
So I'm lost. What gate are you talking
As soon
about?
as you come through that gate, you're
The
on
gate at the DPW yard?
No, on the airport property.
Why?
That was the best location that Mike chose, so they can store it on the concrete.
Yeah, it's just inside the electronic gate. Correct.
Yeah.
Which would be just east of the T hangars. There's a big concrete pad in there that's really, it isn't going to affect the T hangars or anything.
Right.
There's several hundred square feet there. That's where they're going to put it.
So they're not going to go out and down to the east where
No,
there's other
no,
piles?
that's not the plan
Okay,
at all.
that's fine, that's okay.
And what's primarily going to be stored is the P-stone. A few trucks, but the P-stone will be stockpiled here, so they have easy access to it and they can go. So,
Okay.
you were going to say something, Jen? Okay.
Next is the tap fees. I contacted DCC and did some research through the communities to find out what other communities are charging for their tap fees. And this is what you have before you. They're charging more than we are,
That's why I suggested
doubling it, I know.
doubling what we're paying or asking now.
Yeah, yeah. Well, is it the will of the commission? I'll move this forward to the township board for approval. We have to decide
What's
what we
your
want to do.
recommendation? What's your recommendation?
Well, I recommend that we, like Les says, at least double them.
Do you need that in the form of a motion?
Well, I think eventually we're going to. I thought, we got this tap fee thing without any report attached to it, and I was wondering, what do you want us to do with it? So your instructions that you got at the March meeting were to look at this?
Yes, just to look at it, survey the other communities. This is what I've come up with, and I was told to bring it back to the board so that you could take a look at it and see whether or not we want to go ahead and raise our fees.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
do we know what we invest dollar-wise into a tap?
What does it cost?
What does it
What does it
cost
cost us?
I mean, it's not going to look very good if we just arbitrarily double a fee without some kind of justification for that, other than everybody else is doing it, so we're going to do it. I wouldn't be in favor of that at all, at a board level.
Well, the tap fee used to include the stop box, the corporation cock, and the meter.
Right, but there has to be a cost associated with that, for us.
I should know the answer to
Maybe
this.
double isn't enough.
Les, I should know the answer to this, but we contract out the taps? Who does the taps?
Contract.
Yeah, contractor.
Our contractor?
Yeah.
Theirs.
Their contractor does the tap.
And so we furnish them the material that they use.
Correct.
Do we have a number on that? Do we know what that cost us?
We can get back to you on that.
Yeah.
Because I'm not, I don't want to just arbitrarily raise a fee because everybody else does it, but I want to make sure that in raising the fee, if we have to raise the fee, that we're raising it high enough also. So I think we need that number before we can make a logical decision on that.
Also, do we have any idea of how many building permits for new construction were issued last year?
Yeah, we had at least a dozen new homes last year, or close to it.
Yeah, I
maybe
thought we
11.
had 14.
No.
No?
No. There's 11 during the fiscal year. During the calendar year, we probably had 14,
Okay,
okay?
All right, well,
okay, and then,
certainly I also echo that I'd be in favor of looking at this. I didn't know what to do with it.
One
Phil?
question?
Yep.
Linda, I noticed, or John, that the other areas that have a variable cost for things, the variance seems rather narrow, but where we have a variable cost, our variance goes from 1660 to 3706 in one case for the 2-inch.
And that depends on what size main they're tapping into.
They're tapping into? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the size of the equipment that has to go in to what we put in there?
Right. It's a size main that they're tapping.
Right.
What's the wish of the commission on this?
well, I think we need to see the breakdown of what exactly goes into this.
Okay.
Recognizing it's going to vary by the size of the tap.
For the residential, where do they normally fall? 1, 1.5, and 2? Where do the residentials fall?
Oh, 1 inch.
1 inch.
1 inch?
Mm-hmm.
We have little commercial stuff out here
Right.
that's going to be new. So that's probably where you need to focus your cost accounting.
There's quite a few homes that tap 1.5 inch too.
Well, then you have to look at that.
Are there?
Yeah, they put a sprinkler system in.
I mean,
Okay.
it's not where they're located,
It was on East
based on the
River's got
size of
4
it.
inch or something.
Right.
The empty place?
John, how many homes use a tap larger than 1 inch?
Currently,
Yeah.
between 75 and 100, I would say.
Out of 4,000? Any in the last year? That you can recall?
No.
So what you're saying, Les, if they have a sprinkler system, they may have an 1.5 inch tap.
Yeah, they have a meter pit with that.
All right, so the sense I'm getting is the commission, we're going to look at this. What are we going to, we're going to study it? What are we going to ask the staff to do is put a recommendation in writing together for us on this?
Yeah, to give us a
Bring
breakdown of
bring
what
back
the
the cost
costs
of
are.
what a typical 1 inch tap would be. I guess even a 1.5 inch tap. I suppose we could do it for up to a 2 inch tap too, since you have all three categories where we currently charge.
Okay.
I'd like to ask another question related to this, since I missed the discussion. Do we have anything called a connection fee?
That's built into your water tap fee. There's a sewer connection fee, but
There's a sewer compliance fee.
the water availability cost is built into the tap fee.
All right, so what's the connection fee for sewer?
If it's the original developer, it's $600. If it's not, it's $2,000.
I'm curious as to how that stacks up with everybody else as well. I have no idea.
I know.
Here.
Do we
I don't know.
have any prepaid left? I know Kraus turned most of his in. Kraus had a bunch
That I
of
don't know.
prepaid, but we gave him his check back for that. So
Right.
I'm not sure we have any prepaid left, do we? Not to my knowledge. Kraus had prepaid 35 or 40 lots, but they requested his money back, so we gave it to him.
It's too bad we didn't ask for both at the same time. Well, we have 30 days before the next meeting. I wonder how hard it would be to call a few of these communities and see what their sewer connection
I'll
fee is
contact
as
them through
well.
the DCC. Yeah,
Remember, there's a
it's easier
couple in there.
Get out that way.
There's a couple other ones you should contact. Pittsfield Township and Waterford Township.
Waterford Township? And who's the other one?
Pittsfield.
Now, they're outside of our county. Why, can I just ask Les why you're asking for that?
Because we were talking with some of those guys a while back, what they were charging for their taps. And the water superintendent at the time told me and Eddie Phillips, hey, these developers want to come in here and use our stuff, let them pay for it.
Okay. I do know that some places, depends on the amount of debt they have, and they put in, they're trying to recoup. I know that of a township, a large township in Livingston County, where the sewer connection fee is $10,200. Now, I don't think we want to go there because they have enormous debt in their system. But there are a lot of variables in terms of what they're trying to recoup. So you said Pittsfield and Waterford?
Yeah, Pittsfield Township and Waterford Township.
Well, what I notice here is Canton Township's not here. They're in Wayne County.
Well, I just reached out to the DCC community, first of all. That's all I contacted. So if you want me to contact Pittsfield, Waterford, and Canton?
Well, I just wonder, I mean,
And
it
add
looks
them
like
to
we
the
have a
list?
lot of Wayne County communities here, Joe.
You may want to consider contacting communities that have their own wastewater treatment plant, because none of those do. Pittsfield contracts with Ann Arbor. Waterford contracts with Detroit, and they're looking at going to Pontiac.
Well, but I think what they're trying to recoup is the cost of the interceptor system.
In those cases, they would, but in your, and it would be the purchase, you know, how much capacity that they could purchase at these plants.
Right.
But if you you might want to look at like Rockwood, City of Rockwood that has their own wastewater plant. You might want to consider what those tap fees or connection fees are.
Okay, so we have Rockwood.
Rockwood, Berlin Township, Carlton.
Carlton's a very small community, right?
Yep, they have a wastewater plant.
I already know their tapping fees for, I think water was $8,000
Yeah.
in Exeter.
City of Milan's another one you could look at.
Milan, okay.
Yeah, look at what the tap fees for here in Township. $2,800.
Yep.
Well, we're putting a lot of work on staff, so what I would ask is, I suppose it'd be all right with me if we don't come back for 60 days instead of 30 days. Is that okay with everybody?
Sure.
So I think you know the nature of the questions, and I think we need to, should we form a couple of people volunteer to sit down with you and review this? Just to kind of talk our way through a recommendation? Would you be, Mr. Budney would be, I'm available. Les, you'd be available?
I'd like to.
All right. So we'll have a little subcommittee, Budney, Schmidtke, and Kostick. Why don't you gather more information? We'll plan on coming back at our July meeting, if it's possible. Okay?
Bill, just to be clear, are we going to focus on like the ones, the 1.5s, from a focus standpoint, because the one shorts and the one longs and all of that stats don't pertain to us for the most part? So is that what we're looking at, the ones and the 1.5s? Or do we look at the 2s also?
Well, I agree with you, John, but I don't understand what one short is, what one...
Well, the thing is, we don't have that classification. I don't think we need to create it. And if we're looking at manpower and your focus, it's a lot quicker and more accurate, that's all. Just so everybody understands.
So I've never seen it described this way, so tell me what a short and a long is.
Water main's on the same side of the road or it's across the street.
Oh, I see.
Doesn't pertain to us at all.
All right. Well, I think you can, as John said, I think you can talk about a 1-inch tap. You can you can reduce the categories in half here.
Okay.
It'd be easier to follow too. So, what do we do in the case if it's on the other side of the road?
It's all on the contractor.
So it doesn't really matter to us. Okay. So let's make this a simpler report. Go from one. I guess you could start with, only Gibraltar shows up with a 3/4 inch. I suppose we could start at the 1 inch and go from there. Okay, make it easier?
Okay, so 1 all the way up to 12? Or do you want just 1, 1.5, and 2?
Well, right now, if you're anything larger than a 2, you pay the $3,700. So I guess only one community shows having those larger ones, and that is Dearborn. It's easy enough to, you can leave it the way it is, I guess.
Okay.
Okay. Water main breaks.
Okay, I put together a list of the water main breaks the last couple of years, and I updated the map. As you can see, I ran out of colors, so I'm starting to do with X's, different colors on it. And you can see
That's Elliot Brood. That was Steve Pickin on drums and vocals, Casey LaFoyette on guitars and bass and vocals, Mark Sasso on guitars and vocals, and Aaron Goldstein on the Lonesome Machine, the old pedal steel. Now, guys, if I'm not mistaken, the title of this record, Workin' Love, is taken from a song from a band from Guelph called the Constantines. The song is called Soon Enough. What did you feel when you heard that lyric that made you decide to repurpose it as the album title here?
I mean, that song to us has always been an important song. We listen to it on the road all the time. And I think kind of everything that we were trying to say on this record was said with that one line, soon enough, work and love will make a man out of you. Those are the two things that kind of, to me, strike me as what makes you an adult. I thought Bri said it pretty perfectly, so we thought we'd borrow that for the title of what the idea of what this album is, which is kind of, you know, growing up, leaving home, leaving your friends, getting your heart broken, and then maybe going back again to fix it.
You've come around to the idea that maybe it's not just, you know, falling in love with somebody, but actually just doing the work day to day that maybe leads you to adulthood.
Oh yeah, I mean,
just the northbound side, because the
Correct.
southbound side is.
The southbound
Except
side's
at the
okay.
intersection.
Except at the intersection, right.
All the old stuff.
Yeah.
The new stuff isn't going to be touched.
Well, the intersection would be nice to get fixed, because it's very bad.
Yeah.
So,
Bill, there was one day I went off the island and there was a whole survey crew from the county at the intersection of Grosse Hill Parkway and Jefferson, and they were working their way up Parkway and up Jefferson.
well, that should go this summer, so let's hope it does.
Good sign.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to get to every commissioner in a moment. I want to just advise you that over the winter, I had a contact from the chairman of the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Commission. They wanted to have a joint meeting with us. I spoke with them again today, and it looks like we're going to settle on our June meeting to have a joint meeting. So I made some notes. All I'm going to do is find them.
Aye.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the June 9th meeting.
We're going to have a study session with them, right, Bill? Or
Well, we're going to do whatever you want to do, whatever format you want to do. So they would like to come in June 9th. I suppose we could always put them off, but I think we know they want to talk, they want to learn what we're talking about for road improvements and share with us some things they'd like to see included in them related to pedestrian and bicycle traffic. They already know, and I've talked to them at length about the fact that we don't have enough money to do the resurfacing, let alone make any other accommodations, but they'd at least like to talk about it. And I don't think it would hurt for us to know what's out there, what's possible in terms of some striping or signage to make things a little safer if we can do that for minor costs. So, and it's, in my mind, it's an excellent time by then, and we're going to talk about the next item, is our long-term road plan. If indeed we're going to move forward this year on it, it would be timely to make a presentation to them about it, because by that time, we're really talking about 2 months from now. We need to have a plan in place to recommend to the Township Board with some specificity. We thought we had that, but I'm going to share with you in a minute that Wayne County has informed us that none of our roads, you recall that we had programmed East River and Meridian, which are eligible for federal grant assistance, 80% of the funding, that they'll never qualify. And they'll never qualify because of the competition for the money in Wayne County. And based on our traffic volumes, they will never qualify. And I have the letter here, I'll read it to you. So with that, we're on our own. So maybe we should talk about, so June 9th is when they wanted to come in. And I'd like to make a presentation to them at that point. The other thing I thought about is the chip seal will be coming up, and if you recall last year we had a meeting, we invited people to come in, talk about the chip seal, and certainly we have to send a letter out to the residents again, once we know the contractor schedule, and say, within this next 30-day window, you can expect the chip seal to occur, and here's how it's done, and blah, blah, blah. We also had a meeting, and only, 10 people showed up or so, remember? We'd set aside an hour for that, but I think we need to offer it again. So my thought is at the June meeting, maybe we invite the residents that are going to experience the chip seal in at 6:30 and have a half hour to talk to those that come, and then at 7, start our meeting. After we get through the beginning formalities, we sit down and make a presentation on cable of what our road plan is by that time to the Bicycle Commission and to the residents that are watching, and then we can have discussion with them. Does that work for you? Does that sound okay? Mm-hmm. So I don't know that we need a motion, so then the plan will be at June 9th meeting, Lorinda, I'd ask, we'll get a letter out to confirm. Well,
The same letter like we sent last time?
well, that letter, but that'll go out once we know the schedule
Right.
to the residents. But to Mr. Pollock and his commission, the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee, you and I will talk to him certainly by next week, and we'll confirm the date and the plan, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So they're meeting later this week, I think, and he's going to firm that up with them. And we'll prepare that agenda for that meeting. So the next item is the long-term road plan, and I want to just read this letter to you, this paragraph from the letter. This letter is dated February 9th. So we sent them, the county, a letter on November 19th with the plan, and our plan is this nice-looking document that we prepared. Went to the Township Board, and they agreed we should send it to the county. So we sent the letter out on November 19th, and in early December, and I don't remember the date, Lorinda, but it was about the 9th or 10th of December, the county staff came over and met with us and verbally told us, we generally will support your program. However, we can tell you right now, there's no federal money. So, he says, paragraph goes on to say, with respect to the projects that you highlighted in your November 19th, 1994, I'm sorry, November 19th, 2014 memo expressing the township's expectations for federal grant funding, Wayne County DPS is unable to commit to securing federal grant funding for those projects, and also cannot commit to the timeline that has been proposed. When they talk about the timeline, the county, all the metropolitan planning agencies, whether it's here or Dallas or Cincinnati, wherever it is, under the federal law to get the federal grants, they have something called the Transportation Improvement Program, referred to as a TIP. If your project's not on the TIP, on the needs list, which Meridian was, it's not going to get funded. So it has to be on the needs list. After we got this letter in February, I found out that they took Meridian off the needs list. So we're preparing a letter that'll go out under the township manager's signature to ask that that be restored. Also, with all the projects that we have, we're asking them specifically, going to ask them, will you approve the projects we outlined? And I mean by this, Church Road. We want to widen it 2 feet on each side. Will you approve that without curb and gutter, without cutting any trees down, and with minimal drainage improvements? Now, what's happening in other communities, and our engineers will tell you that, is the county permitting section will come by and cause you as much in expense for storm drain improvements as your resurfacing costs. We can't have that. We're going to fix the drains, the ditches, but we're not going to build new storm sewers. So we have to ask them for permission for that. With respect to most of their roads, it's just the fact that we're going to mill and resurface or chip seal. But then there's Westford. We know that it's not in the right-of-way correctly. We know there's drainage problems. So the question we have to ask there, the only money we have, and I'm going to share this with you in a little while, we started out at some high figure, $800,000 a mile to cover it or something, and we're now down to about $600,000 a mile to resurface it. Go in and mill it, resurface it, wedge it on the east side so that it'll sheet drain across the road, or some other way to get it moving towards Trenton Channel and not just ruining that edge. Will they let us do that? We're talking about spending $2 million if we get approval. It's all subject to voter approval, but if we get approval, will the county go along with our plan? And we need to tie them down. The last thing we want to do is promise people that we're going to do these things and have the county up our costs to the point where we can't afford to do what we said we were going to do. Agreed? So that's one issue. So I was playing with some figures, and I did this on my own, subject to the, here's a package, John, right there. There's 2 sheets to each one of these. Pass these out.
Thank you.
One for Ted, Les. One for Ted over there. That's for Lorinda and John. John and Lorinda each have one?
We share them.
All right, thank you. So what I did is given the fact that we were counting on almost $3 million in this plan of ours of federal aid, I started to do what I could, and I consulted with Sohail, our engineer, to see what we could do to reduce some of these costs. So I'd like to just discuss it with you. And I put on the left margin what my thought is we'd build them. So Church Road would be one of our first priorities in the first year. And the cost for the road hasn't changed. It's still $1.4 million. I knocked the storm sewer money we were willing to spend from $800,000 to $600,000, with $200,000 of that to be bonded and $400,000 of that to come out of the drain fund. So this is all very arbitrary, and I didn't refigure the bonds. I just wanted to see how I could get the cost down. On Meridian, the original plan was to go from Grosse Hill Parkway to Church, and that was in the county program, the needs list. Well, if you go drive that, it's terrible all the way to Horse Mill. It's not just bad for 1.75 miles. It's bad for a mile all the way to Horse Mill. It's bad for 2.5 miles. It's from Church to Horse Mill is 3/4 of a mile. So reduce the cost from 900 to 800,000 a mile, and to resurface, that's $2 million. And you'll see our original cost for that was, our share was 300,000. We were trying to sweeten it for the county and pick up their share. So now it's $2 million. Our chip seal program, we were originally going to do 15 miles, and we were being liberal with that. So I refigured it at 12 miles, twice over a 4-year period. That's $1.4 million. On East River, I reduced the project from Horse Mill to Ferry. Originally, we were going to try to go to Manchester. So it's reduced from Horse Mill to Ferry, which is the worst section. Resurfaced those 2 miles. And then I went back and added also East River between Grosse Hill Parkway and Manchester, if you can imagine that. That's not in good shape. Grosse Hill Parkway to Manchester. So where we had 900,000, now that's $2 million. Change Ferry Road from any widening at all to just resurfacing it. Cut the cost from $1.2 million to $800,000. On Meridian Road, we haven't finished Meridian Road, so we got to go all the way to the bridge. So from Horse Mill to the bridge, $260,000, and that's really a guesstimate. And then I reduced West River. When we first started at West River, given the drainage problems, we were at 900,000 a mile. Now it's 600,000 a mile, with 300,000 from the drain fund. So in total, we're taking $700,000 out of the drain fund, and we're deleting altogether those scattered intersections. Now, based on this scenario, and I'm not saying this is final, okay? We haven't discussed this. We have to talk about this. I wanted you to study this and think about it. I got it down to 9.9 million. I was trying to get to 9 million. Remember we talked about that as a figure? And of course, we can still get to 9 million. All you do is cut something out of here.
Get to 5 million.
So here's I'm going to summarize my thought on this road thing. May 5th, we have an election that everybody's talking about. The prognostications are that the state proposal, so-called Proposal 1 on May 5th, will not pass. The newspapers and the MTA, the Michigan Township Association, the Michigan Municipal League, they're all forecasting that if it does fail, there's no plan B in the legislature. If you hear all the talk shows on Sunday morning that talk about this, like Inside Michigan and Tim Skubik's program and Lansing, they all saying there's no plan B. So even if it passes, I would really question how much we're going to be able to say we could get. I mean, on Grosse Hill, but we ought to get something. So at any rate, my thought is that's just 3 weeks away. We digest this. We're working on these things. I think in May we're going to have a separate study session aside from our meeting and really focus on this. Once we know what happens May 5th, we hear all the rhetoric, we got to come back with something like this. And so that's what I'm going to propose to you. The other thing is if we're going to go to the Township Board with a recommendation, we need to go probably by July 1st. It sounds like it's a long way away, but John, you know that to get something on a ballot, it's got to go at least 90 days before the issue. And we would need more time than that if we had a program together for water main and roads, which we dearly need, then we need 120 days, and we need to talk about a campaign to go out and speak to every group we can speak to, publish a newsletter that describes what we're talking about, a map, shows the residents, here's what we're talking about doing, if you approve this. Now, that backdrop, we've already talked in the fall, if you remember, about all the 72 proposals that were on the November ballot in 2014. And of those, of the 72, only 14 failed. Those were all road proposals throughout the state. And that Riverview has approved 3 mills for roads for 10 years. Southfield approved $99 million bond issue. Royal Oak, Farmington Hills Farmington, numerous other communities have approved road millages, and there'll have to be more because roads are bad. And all we can do is say, here's a plan, put it to the voters, and say, unfortunately, we're on our own, just like every other community. That's kind of my thinking on it. So I'd like to open it up for your thoughts.
Bill, along with that, we talked about going back to the county and talking to them.
This letter I mentioned that's being prepared, that's going to give rise to the discussion, because in it, I bring up the issue that they deleted Meridian, and in it, we're going to say something about financing that I don't know what we're going to say yet. I put some words in a draft, and it needs to be
Massaged,
yeah. But that letter would hopefully go out by the township manager, and that before June 1st, we'd have a meeting with the county and try to tie them down a little bit. And I know that from talking to Ted, our sage advisor, that one could have a great deal of skepticism about whether the county, even though it's their roads, whether they really care. We live with them. They don't. And to delete Meridian Road, which is as bad a shape as Jefferson is, doesn't carry the traffic, but it's equally as bad to drive, that's a shame. I mean, I don't know if you agree with me or not.
No, I agree.
So, it's a real problem. Any comments? You let me just keep talking, see, I'm gonna break Riley's record here already.
You're not going to break my record. You overshot by a half hour. And I was with Woody, you weren't.
No, Bill, I agree with you. We have, the key is having the plan, which I truly believe we will have, and then actually going out and meeting with the people, getting it before them so that they understand what's going on. That's going to be very, very important. Okay, so I'll work with staff to organize a schedule for us and how we're going to progress, but I think that you can count on that in May and probably June, it's going to be a busy time. Last night I was at the Township Board meeting and made a brief comment to them about our local road sectioning program. That was awarded to G&V Concrete. And I said this program addresses some of our neighborhood streets. It does not address our primary and secondary roads. That's what we're focusing in on here. So there's a difference there.
That's $600,000, right?
Correct.
For 15.
Yeah. Okay, so I think I'm done. I'm done. So want to go around the table? Mr. Budney.
I just want to add to that, that Representative Somerville is coming to speak. He's going to be, in fact, in this boardroom, April 23rd, to speak about Proposal 1.
Jim, are they going to televise that?
Yes, it's going to be televised, and for those that want to come, hopefully there'll be a question and answer period. I know I have some questions for him regarding it, and I think one of the things that we do want to find out for sure is there a Plan B, or what are his thoughts on that, being from the legislature, but everything we hear so far seems to be that the proposal isn't going to pass, so we'll see.
Can I add to that, Jim? I was watching the Tim Skubik show, and what's it called, on Sunday mornings, anyway, and he asked one of the legislators, the prior Speaker of the House, is there a Plan B? And he said, no, there isn't a Plan B, but the Plan B that was offered before this legislation was put up on the May ballot Plan B was to take money from local government revenue sharing and the money allocated to schools and fund roads with it. So to try to pull $900 million out of school funding and local government funding and do it that way. That's what the plan was, that's what some conservative legislators offered. That's not acceptable. You can't take money from education.
That'd be 2 failures in a row for them.
It'd be 3 failures. I mean, local governments everywhere are hurting for money in Michigan, and our schools are hurting for money. And to think you're going to take money out of that enormity, out of the school fund, I mean, people are going to have to realize there's just no money, not enough money for roads, period. Whether you like it or not. Are you done?
Yes.
I think I got to be done too. Jim?
No, it's too late now, of course, because the ballot is issued and we're going to vote on whatever Proposal 1 says. I think it would have been better if they would have sunsetted the 1 cent increase in the sales tax, do it for 4 years. People will vote for something, even though there's other stuff in there that they don't like. But I think a sunset would have been a lot better because it's going to end. It's sometime, the way it's done right now, it's going to be 7% for everyone. It's probably going to go up from there. But that's all water over the dam. We're going to have to roll with what we have. I don't like it, but I voted for it as an absentee ballot person. Thank you.
The ballots are already out?
Absentees are out.
Are they? Okay.
You have to be over 60 to get one bill, so you don't qualify.
Thank you. The chairman has nothing more to say. John Riley?
Well, let's see, 2 things. I read an editorial article the other day about the hidden and never disclosed gross amount in the catastrophic loss fund. An interesting position was voiced, being that if they open up that fund, there's got to be a lot of money in there, and it could be used for roads. Very interesting point, but furthermore, it seems like in a governmental entity having a secret fund that all of us contribute to on an annual basis with our premiums may not be in the best interest of us, the people. And that just struck me as a bitter pill to accept annually. That's one thing. Then on the lighter note, luckily, Les Schmidtke reminded me that last Friday, April 10th, in the afternoon, on the Kathy Lee and Hoda show, my son, Dr. Mike Riley, had a spot for about 5 minutes. And I'm a little older, I almost forgot, but he reminded me and I saw it. It was pretty good. You may be interested in watching it also. I think it's on the internet. That's it. That concludes. I'm turning the attention over to Mr. Kennedy.
You're a star.
I am not a star. Dr. Mike
That's
is the star.
John, I want to ask you a question. Do you remember the amount that was in the catastrophic loss fund?
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
It's not public information?
Apparently not. Who is it?
Some states have
Phil
No, we just...
Kavanaugh made an article in the paper about maybe 2 years ago about that, when he was preparing to run for a higher office locally. And every once in a while, a blip on the radar screen occurs where you'll see an article about it, but it's a very unusual accounting situation. That's all.
unusual being nice.
Okay, Phil.
No comment.
No comment. Les?
Commissioner Riley stole my story. On Fox News, on Let It Rip, a week or so, a couple of weeks ago, there was a legislative, 2 people there, and they were talking about this vote that's coming up. And they asked them, well, who's got Plan B? And they said, nobody's got Plan B. Well, this legislator, he says, I got a Plan B. And when this goes down in May, I'm going to bring my Plan B up. And it's exactly what John said. They said they could borrow, I don't know how many millions maybe even $1 billion from this catastrophic fund. But nobody knows how much is in that fund, and nobody is saying how much money's in that fund. But they've been collecting that money since the 70s. And you're paying a big chunk of that every time we insure our vehicle.
For every car.
Every one, not just...
And motorcycle.
I can't believe
Yeah, that's right, and motorcycles.
Well, I can't believe that's not available, public information, but I guess it's not for some reason.
It's a big secret fund that, I don't know how they did it, but nobody knows what's in it.
The No Fault Act, by the way, became effective here in Michigan in 1973. So that'll help you figure out what you've been paying since then.
It's a great idea what he has, but if he can find out, I don't know how he's going to do it. But anyhow, the other thing that I have, everybody's putting the county down and saying the county this and county that, and you can't get anything out of the county. There's a resident on Sunday morning that had a huge limb break off a tree in his front yard and almost hit the house. Yesterday morning at 8:15, he called the county. By noon, this huge tree, which is almost 4 foot in diameter, is cut down and cleaned up, and the only thing that's left is the logs. The forestry division did one super job.
So the tree was on the right-of-way?
The tree was right on the property line, 6 inches off the property line, and that resident was my son on Blackmore.
Well, you know what, that's good to hear that we're getting some service out of the county.
Yeah, he texted me at 12:30 on my phone, and he says, the tree is gone. And I thought he was kidding me, and I called him back, and yep, they cleaned it up.
Well, very good. Kudos to the county.
That's all I got.
Thank the county for that. Ted?
Yes, thanks, Bill. I'd like to bring an issue back I brought to you last year and did some research. I had Bill and Miranda and the township engineer. It's another issue with Wayne County and their drainage. Mr. and Mrs. Kashmir Runowitz, who live on Stout Street, in a very sorry condition in front of their house. They called Wayne County Drainage out. They addressed the drain by dredging it the wrong way. Magnified the problem considerably. And I have some photographs here if anybody's interested in looking at it, but in rain events and snow melt events, they literally cannot get in and out of their driveway.
Why don't you pass the photos around while you're talking?
So I guess what I'm asking this commission is if they will bring something forward, either to this commission or the township board, to address this issue. I don't think Wayne County is going to do it. I think they're wrong. The Radowitzes have gone into the Board of Review requesting a reduction in property values because their driveway's caving in and they get water up to their garage at certain times of the year. The Board of Review said, well, we can't reduce your taxable value on the property because the problem can be fixed. So they've gone to Wayne County, they've done their due diligence, they've appeared at meetings, they've talked to everybody they can at Wayne County. Wayne County just did not respond. So I took it upon myself to have Ohio take a look at it with me. He brought out the old plans of this particular drainage problem, and what they did was the drain is the Wayne County connector for that drainage ditch is farther west, and they actually dredged east, which created a little lake east of their house and in their driveway. So it's not going to be a cheap fix. And I would like to see this commission, if possible, put some pressure on Wayne County Drain and see if we can get them to do anything. And if we can't get them to do anything, we need to give these people some relief because it is affecting their property values and their...
So, could you give me the address again?
Yeah, it's 8031 Stout. And if you go down there, you look, it's obvious where the problem is because all the mailboxes are falling in the ditch because it holds so much water.
So this affects more than one property?
Yeah, there's probably 2 or 3 properties. This one is in the middle of the lake. The rest of them are on the shoreline. So this property gets the worst of this particular effect.
Where is that on Stout, Ted? Is it closer to East River?
Yeah, it's probably, I'm guessing about a quarter of a mile up from East River, going west, and it would be on the south side of the street. You'll see...
Like 10 houses in or something like that?
At least that, maybe 15 or 20. And you'll see it when you get there, you'll see all the mailboxes in that area starting to list to the ditch. It becomes pretty obvious. In fact, the telephone poles on the other side of the street are listed too. I don't know what that's all about. But anyway, I think it's our responsibility in our position to try to get these people as much assistance and relief as we can. They've certainly exercised all the means that they've got, and Wayne County's just not responding. It is a Wayne County problem, there's no doubt about it. So Ohio had the original drawings and blueprints. He knows what the fix is for this thing, but it's not going to be a cheap fix, so.
All right, so to get the ball started here, and there's another drain issue that Les and I are going to look at. It's over in the vicinity of Parkway and what, Les? It'd be east of Meridian?
Dallas Parkway.
Dallas and Parkway?
Yeah.
Why don't we, on both those issues, ask the engineers not to design anything, spend any money at this point, just make some inexpensive assessment of what it might take, and bring that back to the...
So Ohio's already done a review of this property. He did it with me.
All right, so...
I got him out one day, and we actually drove by. Lorenda was with us. We actually drove by the property. He pulled out the blueprints. He knows what it's supposed to do. It just doesn't do it.
Well, what I'm suggesting is, in both instances, since we're into the new fiscal year, maybe the right thing to do would be to ask him to put a paragraph or two together on each and describe what it might cost us, and bring it preliminary.
We as a commission could try to apply some pressure.
Bring a preliminary.
I don't know if it's going to work.
To me, I mean, especially on this one that Ted's talking about, if the county was out there and they did their job wrong, I mean, we should be going back to them first.
Well,
I mean, have they talked to Palmyra?
Personally, I have not. I won't go into that, but no, I haven't. We'll just leave it at that.
Well, myself, I'd like to get a little bit of a handle on a rough sketch of what it's going to take in both these.
Well, so I was very familiar with the project.
All right. So is that agreeable with everybody? We don't have a dollar limit at this point, but just some preliminary, for a very preliminary cost, or inexpensive cost, do an initial assessment of what it might take to design and fix the drainage in both these areas. Yeah. I mean, that costs money to get it started. And we'll bring that back at the May meeting.
Appreciate that, Bill. Thank you.
Is that agreeable with everybody?
Sure.
All right. So there's two drains, Lorinda, and I think you know, can describe them for the minutes.
That's all.
So you're done, and John, do you have anything to bring up?
Thank you.
What's that?
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Lorinda, anything else?
Nope, I think I said enough.
Joe, thanks for being here. Well, with that, it seems like we're done.
I make a motion.
Support.
That we adjourn this meeting.
All in favor, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Good night, everybody.